My name is David Schlundt, and welcome to the Science of Community Engagement. This is a video blog dedicated to providing information and resources to the scientific community on community-engaged research. It is brought to you by the Community Outreach Core of the Meharry Vanderbilt Tennessee State Cancer Partnership. Hi. Today's topic on the Science of Community Engagement is what is community engaged research? Research is any effort to create new knowledge using scientifically sound methods. So this distinguishes it from community activism or many other types of activities in that research is intended to find out something, to learn something new. Community engaged research is when discovering something new. Doing research is done as a partnership between researchers and individuals, organizations, or institutions within a community. A community consists of people who have something in common. It could be race or ethnicity, it could be geography, it could be education, training, background, it could be vocation, it could be sexual orientation, or any of many common interests or experiences can define a community of people. Communities always exist in some context, historical, geographic, economic, cultural, and when doing community engaged research, it's important to understand those contexts. What's the background? What's the history? What's the culture of the community that you're working with? It's important that communities are actual or potential social networks. That is, that the people are able to interact with each other either in person or virtually, and to interact around the solution of a common problem or the pursuit of a shared goal. Some features of community engaged research. One is that typically addresses real-world problems, looking at things like health disparities, creating community justice, reducing violence. All would be topics that might be part of a community engaged research project. Typically the goal is not only to sort of create new knowledge, to understand something or learn something new. The goal is to actually change the world for the better. It's community engaged when the community is actively involved in this process. It's important to remember and consider that the change usually is desired to be sustainable. You not only want to change something temporarily as an experiment, but you really want to change something that's going to result in a long-term benefit to the community that you're involved with. Again, it's solving local problems as a way to generate new knowledge, and community engagement usually involves a coalition that includes researchers, stakeholders, government agencies, businesses, or other interested parties. Ultimately, there's a partnership or a coalition there that makes it community engaged. This is the community engagement continuum, and let me walk you through it. At the very left is work that involves little or no community involvement, and on the right, it's complete community involvement. I'll start out with investigator-driven research. That's the typical work that gets done in science. Somebody has an idea, they apply for a grant, they get some money, they plan, implement, evaluate the work, publish it in a journal. It contributes to knowledge and science. They may take a step further and turn it into community-placed research. It's still driven by the investigator, but it's done in a community setting. Community-based research takes it a little further, and it's not only done in a community setting, but there's some engagement with members of the community, often in the form of an advisory board. But in this research, the researchers are still making most of the decisions. Community-based participatory research is actually an equal partnership between the researchers and the community stakeholders, and the decisions about planning, implementing, evaluating the work are done jointly. They're all phases of the project are done as a partnership. And then the far end is community-driven research, which occurs when the community itself is doing work to create new knowledge. Community-based participatory research, there's an awful lot of interest in that. Again, it's a research that's done in partnership with a community to solve some sort of a problem or to create outcomes that will lead to the better quality of life or better health for a community. It's defined by full engagement of the community as an equal partner in defining the problem, setting goals, developing the interventions, figuring out how you're going to measure and evaluate outcomes, analyzing the results, and disseminating what you learn. Unlike investigator-driven research, where the typical dissemination product is a professional journal article, community-based participatory research may also want to do things like community forums or have things published in newspapers or on the television to basically inform the community about what was done and what was learned. This is a diagram that just shows the sort of three stages of a research project: planning, implementation, and evaluation. The stacked boxes under each stage represent some of the goals or milestones that are involved in the process. So for example, under planning, there's engaging the community, building capacity, perhaps conducting a needs assessment, setting goals, planning the program, planning how it'll be evaluated. The pink box on the side indicates that as the planning is completed, the product is usually a logic model that describes, here's the problem, here's the resources, here's what we'll do, and here's what we expect in terms of short, intermediate, and long-term outcomes. The next column just represents the implementation of the research, and the far right column represents the evaluation. Again, including measuring what you're doing, collecting the data, analyzing it, interpreting it, disseminating it, and then ultimately hoping that you lead to actions or outcomes that are sustained in the community. So to wrap up here, community-engaged research seeks to create new knowledge. That's what makes it research. It's a partnership between researchers and the community. We've seen that there are many levels of potential community engagement, from just research done in the community to community-based participatory research where the community becomes an equal partner in the work. What's different about community-engaged research is it often looks to solve real-world problems and to create sustainable solutions. The methods, it includes many methods involved in planning, implementation, and evaluation, and those efforts to solve a problem of importance to the community. In later blogs, we'll talk about these methods in much more detail. So this is an introduction to community-engaged research. Thank you.